Welcome to the ATC24 101 YouTube channel. This channel is dedicated to new ATC24 server players interested in joining but are unfamiliarized with this new aviation knowledge and phraseology. In this channel, we will be going over information pertaining to aviation knowledge, terminology, and phraseology, which is enough to understand and get comfortable in ATC24. Do keep in mind that ATC24 is a simplified version of role-playing simulators such as VATSIM, as real terminology, phraseology, and rules are scaled to be more simpler to understand. For our first video, we will be discussing about SIDS and stars and visual approaches. So what are SIDS and stars? Well, a SID stands for Standard Instrument Departures, while a star stands for Standard Terminal Arrival Routes. Obviously, in name, one is departure, one is an arrival. You can find more information about these in the Instrument Flying Handbook. For SIDS, that would be Chapter 10.5, while a star will be Chapter 1.12. And both of these different sources of departures and arrivals are kind of categorized in three different ways. One can be from radar vectors, one is pilot navigation, and one can be a hybrid. More explanation will be mentioned when using example SIDS and stars further in the video. Over here we have Perth, here's the Diner 1 departure, and over here we have a star into Rockford, the Settler Poppy 2 arrival. So why would you fly one? Well, flying a SID or star can reduce workload of ATC. If ATC offers a star or SID, then you just fly the SID and you're completely clear of obstructions, clear of obstacles, and ATC doesn't have to keep on vectoring you out of traffic. You're also clear of traffic as well. The realism aspect is also something to keep in mind. Jets and turboprop aircraft fly SIDS and stars pretty frequently if airports provide one. However, in ATC-24, it's not limited to the aircraft mentioned above, although general aviation aircraft don't typically fly these, as SIDS and stars usually range from a whole variety of flight levels or altitudes in general, and some of these general aviation aircraft can't go up that high, but in ATC-24 it's definitely manageable. And again, these are not mandatory, they're optional, and as pilots can mention, no SID or star, and in ATC-24, ATC provides if they are able to do a SID or a star. So, how would we choose one? Well, in ATC-24, the ATISes tell you if the ATC accepts SIDs or stars. If it's not mentioned, you can definitely ask them if they allow one, but if not, they probably just don't understand how it works, or they just simply don't provide it. To access these departures and arrivals, you can use the airport chart supplement link provided in the current ATIS of that controller airports, and there are different variants of charts from third-party people, so make sure you are using the same charts and make sure that they're current with the time that you're playing in, and so that the controller knows what arrivals or SIDs that you will be departing off of. And some items to keep in mind when deciding on a departure or arrival. One is the airport clearance limit, so where your arrival will be, direction of flight, so where you're departing, whether it be to the west, southwest, east, southeast, northeast, whatever. Runway usage, definitely make sure you check the ATISes of both your arrival and departure airport to see which runways are used, and also your own understanding knowledge. Just simply knowing how to fly one is very important as well. If you're not comfortable with it, you can definitely choose different ones. And lastly, visual approaches. So visual approaches, these are approaches which also reduce workload of ATC by simply calling out if the airport is in sight. It's to the pilot's discretion to land properly, and they just land visually with the use of visual glide indicators or VASIs or PAPIs as well. It also must be clear visibility, although the minimum visibility in real life is 1,000 feet of clouds at or above, and a minimum of 3 statute miles, I believe, but because this is ATC-24, it's always clear, and technically there is no instrument meteorological conditions, so visuals are always accepted as well. So per this visual, however, there are some that provided in charts. One notable one is the river visual runway 119 in Washington, Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. But again, not all visuals are charts as well. Like I mentioned earlier, ATC can just clear you for an approach or the visual if you simply see it in sight and you just simply descend on by yourself. And one example in ATC 24 is the River Pass visual runway 7 for Rockford. And now we will be going into a game, in a public game. So you might see some people randomly flying for no reason, and we'll fly a SID, a star, and also one of the visuals. So right now I'm in the ATC 24 Discord server, and we will be making our flight plan. And as an example, for example, we'll be incorporating a SID and a star, and we will also fly it in Roblox, but not in ATC 24, but rather in a public server. So simply just create your flight plan, put the command. We'll say we are Air Canada 1917, aircraft type A320, flight rules IFR, departing Perth, arriving to Greater Rockford, flight level. If we're going to Greater Rockford, that is a westerly heading, southwest, so maybe about 07040. And then as for our routing, so now when it comes to routing, we must input the right SID and star. So let's go into our little book over here, and let's see how we can choose one. So as you can see here, we have our little aeronaut charts from all these people who made it. Really grateful for all these people because the charts are pretty similar to Jepeson's, and Jeppesen is a company which makes charts as well. So over here we have Rockford and we have Perth. So assuming, let's say runway 29 is in use for departures, so we'll scroll down all the way down to Perth, and we'll see that we have Legend, and we'll click let's choose the Diner 1 RNAV. So as you can see, we probably put this in our routes, so let's put the Diner 1.diner, and then we'll transition that to probably GPS Direct, and continue on. Let's see about seeing as our transition is to Diner, let's go check the stars here listed, and let's choose, since all of them are applicable to any runway, let's say we're going to be using runway 25s, the 25 runways, the parallel, center, or the center, left and right. So let's choose the QNAV. And oh great, so in the QNAV we can see that there's also a Diner transition, so we can just put GPS Direct to, or not even GPS Direct, we can just simply put the Diner dots, let's see how to write it down, Diner QNAV 1. So Diner QNAV 1. And that's simply it. If your initial SID transitions to a star, that's great. But most likely you won't get your flight level changed because you're maintaining 2000 because of the initial altitude restriction in Diner, but that's completely fine. We'll just simply put that to 2000 then. And then you would submit it in the Discord server. So assuming we quote unquote submitted it, now let's go and transition into an actual game and fly these things. We are in a public game. As you can see, it is pretty messy out here. There might be aircraft colliding with us, but it's completely fine. I'll just be at the progress and assume that we've been quote unquote cleared to taxi, and I'm going to line up and wait runway 29er. Alright, now we have successfully landed and wait runway 29er. There is an airplane right in front of us, but we're going to ignore that that's there. So on our left side, let's go pull up our charts, and let's go fly what we have quote unquote filed. So we have the Diner 1 RNAV departure, looks like. So how to brief this, we usually start from the top to the bottom. quickly brief it as if we were the pilot, or actually in case we are the pilot. So this is Perth, Australia, in a Perth International Indicator or Code India Papa Papa Hotel Airport. Perth departure will be contacting on 118.7. Airport elevation is 26 feet. And then here is a notes section, so we need, for this departure, we need radar required. These are our navigational equipment, which we will need in a plane, but we're just simply flying via here, so this is technically our quote-unquote GPS. And number 3 is a little note of this prohibited area, special use airspace. So P56, no fly zone below 2,500, and we can't fly below 2,500, but thankfully we're flying a SID, so we don't have to fly into any of those obstacles right there. And again, the name of this departure is Diner 1 Diner. And now down here, now we'll read what our transition is. Now an aircraft just completely landed in front of us. So we'll be flying for runway 29er. We'll be climbing on a heading of 301, and then climbing left turn heading 270 once we're at or above 500. Again, reading that again because I didn't read it properly. Climb heading to 301 to 500 feet, then climbing left turn heading 270. Direct Tinder, then on a heading 185, direct to the Romeo Oscar Mike Airport, and then turn right heading 261 to Diner. So as you can see, there are some different altitudes here. We have a regular black and blue. So if there is a more accented number over here, you can see that there's a line and an altitude above it. So if there is an altitude above that line, that means that you must be at or above the altitude in order to complete the next direction or instruction. If it's below, then you must be at or below that altitude. And in the QNAV 1 RNAV arrival, we have that example of at or above and at or below. So again, continuing on for routing after the Romeo Oscar Mike VOR, we should expect our filed altitude 5 minutes after departure, but since our departures are our altitudes at 2,000, we'll be sticking there following this restricted altitude. So now we're going to fly it, we're going to time lapse this, and as you can also see, there are some lines which separate the different airspaces. So once you're pretty much at Romans, then you can expect a frequency change from Perth to St. Barth. And then over here, there is no airspace section in this chart, but probably once you reach index or Ken, or is about to reach Ken, St. Barth will change you to the Greater Rockford controller. So now let's go flight. Time lapse starts now. And I also forgot to mention too that max speed also listed as 230 knots, so let's go at or below 230 knots. So past 500 feet now. Let's make that left turn heading 270. And now we are a cruise at 2,000, seeing as we are direct to Romans. So by the time we're pretty much around here, we'd probably get the frequency change approved. Have a great day. Switch to St. Barth. And then past the Romans, we'll continue on the 261 heading to Diner. And of course, once you change frequencies, be sure you let the next controller know what your intentions are. So let's say we change frequencies to St. Barth. St. Barth control, Air Canada 1917 is currently at 2,000, flying the Diner 1 Diner departure, or Diner 1 departure. And they'll say radar contact if they have radar contact established, and then you'll continue as filed. And then continue as filed, then you're on your way to your destination airport. In our case, is Rockford. So by this time you are at Romans, and definitely if the controller in St. Barth knows what your in-flight route is, and you say that you are approaching Diner, they can also tell them and mention that you are transitioning into the QNAV 1 or the Diner QNAV 1 arrival, and they'll simply tell you to fly as far as well. And seeing as we are at Diner now, we can transition to our Diner QNAV 1, so we can make a left turn heading 210. And seeing as we have an altitude restriction at 1000, seeing as QNAV is at or above 2000, it doesn't really make sense to go descend to 1000. So, and also as long as ATC tells you to maintain your current altitude, and plus 2000 is our assigned cruise altitude that we have chosen, we can simply continue and go follow this routing to QNAV and then transition out to Swede, assuming that our ATIS tells us in Rockford the runways 25s are in use. And also, if the pilot or if the controller simply wants to reduce the distance or the routing that the pilot has to make, they can simply just say direct to any of these fixes, and the pilot can just turn to any of those fixes based off of your mini-map right here. And now back to the time-lapse. And by this time, obviously, you're probably in radar contact with Greater Rockford Center, and they'd probably tell you to expect an ILS for either right, center, or left. In this case, we can choose the ILS 25 center, because why not? And as we are descending, we are already past Halfa, so now we can make that turn to a 100 and make sure we are at or below 1,500. So that's good enough there. And now let's go pull up the ILS 25 center charts. And let's reduce the speed to about 180. That's good enough. So here you go, we have the ILS 25 center. And again, briefing is simply from top to bottom. So seeing here, we have the ATIS frequency 127.6 for Rockford approach 121.0, tower 118.1, ground 121.9, localizer frequency 111.7, final approach course is a 247 course. APTEV, our final approach fix, is 1,000 feet. We must be at 1,000 feet before descending, and ILS decision altitude 203 feet. Looks like we are now past Swede, so let's make the turn heading to 8087, and we should be at or below, and we're at or below 2,000, so that works out too. And I mean, we're following the previous arrival, so it's completely fine as well. Actually, it's a sunset. You're following the suite or the QNAV one, so that makes sense too. And continuing this briefing, if we do have to go miss, then we will make a climb runway heading to 1,000 initial, and then intercept the Rockford VOR radio heading 250, as you can see here, outbound to 2,500, direct Sages, and we'll hold at Sages. So in between those mountains we'll hold. And if we do have to go miss, then ATC will simply vector us out of the hold and vector us back for the ILS. So now we can see we have to wait about like a 3.8 nautical mile to float. Once we reach float, we will head on a 157 heading direct to Paynes, and then by the time ATC will tell us that we are close to the initial fix, and then make us let us clear us for the ILS and let them know when we're established, and set up for final for runway 25 and for the ILS runway 25 center. And over here, reading this chart, if you don't know, this is our minimum weather requirements here. So we need an RVR of 2.4 or 1.5 statute mile visibility. This is our statute mile visibility, and our decision altitude right here is 203 for the ILS. If we are using a localizer, our MDA our minimum descent altitude is 503. No need to know these because it's the IFR terms are pretty complex. And we also don't use any systems or in the Roblox game. There's no actual tracking the localizer and such, so it's based off of your eyeballing. And seeing as from sweet to float, I mean, that's definitely a good enough space, so we can make our right turn heading 157. And we're still at or below 1,500. Now we are direct planes, 1.5 nautical miles, and kind of eyeballing this too. We're pretty much can turn to that final approach course at a 247, and we can now keep our descent. It's not 247, and that's pretty much 247 right there. And we can always adjust as it's not entirely easy to get lined up, and there is no actual localizer that we can really intercept them, more so just visually intercepting it. So now we are on final, looking decently good. We can kind of make out of the glide slope indicators, and we can definitely reduce our power and insert our flaps as well. By this time, we'll tell tower that we are established on the ILS 25 center, and then tower can clear us for the ILS, and once we are final, tower will also clear us to land as well. So now we'll time lapse this and speed up the process and see if we can better this landing. And now we have safely landed on runway 25 center, and ignoring that plane that's not being manned by anybody, we'll taxi off over here at the end of the runway to Gulf 1. And then from there, ATC will probably tell you to vacate left enable as we are exiting out of Gulf 1. And then we'll get our taxi instructions to whatever stand we get. So now, there you have it, folks. Hope you enjoyed this video. I did unfortunately forget to do a visual approach, but all you gotta do is simply get vectored, or just simply request own navigation to that area of the river visual and fly and follow the river visual charts on the left side that I have displayed here, if I can find it. And right over here. So yeah, if you were to simply just follow this mini map right down here and at or below 2,500, just follow that pathway and get cleared for the visual, then that's simply it. And also just simply being around the airport, if you're parallel, you can just also get cleared to whatever runway is there. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy, and leave down questions or comments down below, and let me know what to go over next. I am thinking about making a video on chart symbology, or not chart symbology, but also probably phrasing, as there's not a lot of charts that really make sense or follow any. There's no IFR charts, but there are charts which show the different airports. But still, we'll think about it in the future. I hope you enjoyed the second video, and I'll see you all next time. See you!